Okay, so we were talking about, I was asking them, as songwriters, do they consider themselves poets? Because sometimes people will say to me, like, they'll introduce me as a poet. I'm like, I'm not really a poet. I can write poetry, but but I think there's a difference between like songwriting and poetry. Sometimes if, like, and we were actually just discussing that, sometimes if the song is not catchy enough, you might want to make it a poem instead of a song because no one's going to listen to it if it's too long. But what do you think are the differences? Do you all consider yourselves poets? If you're poetic, you are poetic in your writing, but do you consider yourselves poets, or what's the difference?
It's like this. I consider myself a degree of athletic, but I am not a pro athlete. Okay. Not even close. So I am poetic in my writing, but I'm not a poet because what they do is much more different. And I think like pure poets might even find it harder to create a song. Right. Where for artists, I think it's easier for us to adapt to poetry, but not to that degree, not to the level of the people who have like really worked hard and crafted it and really made that what they do. So to me, I would say that we are poetic, and there's going to be parts of what we do. Like I was saying to you, I'll go back and read my own lyrics or even some of my friends' lyrics on Genius and just read it and not even try to sing along, just read it. And it'll read as poetry. It'll read as a story. But in a much more simplistic way than I think some of the great poets like a Maya Angelou or anybody that you know to work on that level. So to me, we have parts of it, but I don't think we're 100%. We should be calling ourselves like full-on poets, unless you do both.
Have you like read a certain poem that inspired you to write a song based on that poem?
I've gone to poetry to find maybe a theme or a feeling or something that may spark in my own life to write. I've done that in a while, but I know I've tried over the years many methods at times when I feel like I want to write and just can't quite figure out where it is, I'll just go read stuff. I mean, I go on Tumblr, I'm like, okay, is there even a kind of a corny Tumblr post? Like, if somebody's expressing their feelings, if it's just like a graphic design of words, anything I could find that would like spark something that I can remember in my own life to write. So yeah, I'll go to poetry, I'll go to many other forms.
Yeah, I use poetry a lot. I always take a book of poetry with me on tour, and I'll go through and write down phrases that I like, maybe because they're using words in a cool way, or like there's a structure that I like of like the concept is here and they set it up before, and then I'll go through and like try to write ideas of my own based off that same structure, so that I just have it. So when it's time to write a song, I can flip through those notes and maybe find something that's speaking to me in that moment. So yeah.
So, all right, so now there's a difference between just making songs for your own enjoyment and then making songs for public consumption. Because I know a lot of times, especially if you're on labels or publishing companies, you're kind of discouraged from being too poetic and encouraged to be super duper simplistic. And how do you find the balance, because, we're a lover of words. How do you find that balance between wanting to be more poetic or to use literary devices like, metaphors and similes and alliteration, and kind of being discouraged from that in the work for, layman terms, having to put your songs or your thoughts into layman terms?
I think if you're willing and wanting to put your music out, then to a degree you have to also be able to say, okay, there are other people that are listening and I want people to like it and be able to enjoy it. So there's a part of you that does have to have other people in mind in some records. But because it is still your expression and what you do, you can have plenty of records that are just like for you in the way that you wanted them to be. I used to just early on, and to a degree still, I call it the cheat code. Just do songs that, I know other people are gonna be into these records. And it's like, there's like 2 or 3 of those, and they'll play those, they'll put them on playlists and all that. And then the rest of the project, if you like me, then you're gonna get me, and you'll understand what that feels like and sounds like, because it's so different from the more palatable, the easier records to take in. So it's like I get the opportunity to let a wider fan base, possibly like even if they just casually listen to me and like the song, they get that chance. But then I also grow my fan base because they recognize that the bulk of what I do is actually more to their liking, or it's more of an artistic thing that they can connect to rather than just this overall thing that's made for the masses.
For me, I only write for myself. I've never been on a publishing deal, but I think that we all go through the same shit. So if you write what's personal to you, so many people are going to be able to relate to it, and it's easier. You know, it's coming from a personal experience, so the words come quicker. And yeah, so I think that if you just write what you're feeling, that a lot of people will be able to relate to it. That's just mine.
I have a question to add on to what you started. So when you're writing a song, you all write very personal songs, and you pour so much into them. How do you get to a place when you know I need to cut this idea off to actually complete the song? Because you put so much into like a feeling something.
I've actually kind of put myself on a discipline regimen because, especially if I haven't written like in a couple of months, because I don't know, I don't write every day. I'm not one of those artists that writes every day, but so like when I first get back into writing, I normally will have like a bunch of different ideas that could correlate, but they don't have to. Like I really started to, a friend of mine talked to me about, Wayna actually talked to me about breaking the concept down to its like least common denominator, smallest components, and then expanding out from there, as opposed to having it be so wide that there's so many directions you could go into when that could be like 6 songs, like, you know what I mean? Like you just put 6 songs into one when your album could have been done. But you got 1 song
Right.
and you could have had 6, you know? And I feel like when I started to do that, you're able to get so much deeper into the core of a concept because you started out really small. And so now you have to think about all the different sides of that and perspectives. And I think it just, it brings about a more introspective look at whatever that concept is.
Got it. How about you all?
Yeah, totally. I feel like you have more to work with if you're working on a smaller scale. And this is actually something I've been trying to think about. Like, do I like this line because I feel it, or is it actually a cool line? Like sometimes I'm like, oh, maybe this is actually really cheesy, but because I'm going through it, it feels not cheesy. It feels real. But yeah, that's all I got.
How about you, Xavier?
For me, like I tend to write from just the perspective of love. So that's the main theme in a lot of the records, but now there has to be branches and different degrees of it. Whether it's there's self-love, is there like, you know, valuing yourself, but also not hating yourself, but like just trying to find these branches to all these things and stick to just that one thought from that tree. And so a lot of times I'm literally just on a mission for my whole life to find every angle that I possibly can, everything that I've felt or been through or seen someone go through, and try to write about it, just that situation. Because when I get into a new project or when I get into new records, at times I'm just like, I feel like I wrote about everything. Like, what else? And so then it's like I have to think a little bit and try to find that new branch off for me, and see how that could be successful. So literally, like you're saying, so that I'm not making 1 song instead of 7 or whatever it may be. So yeah, that's kind of how I do it.
Yeah, as a listener, I feel like the lyrics that make me most excited are like the little details that I can really relate to. Because we can all relate to like the big concepts, and there's so many songs about the same concepts. But when someone says something that's like a little detail of your life, and you're like, yes. So yeah, I think finding those is special.
Yeah. Those things that resonate.
You know what I've been trying to lately, just to test my skills or develop myself. I've been doing rap reviews on like stuff that I know nothing about. Like I just did one on an HDMI adapter for the Switch, Nintendo Switch. So when I first started, I was like, I'm not techie. You know, I had to call my son to be like, okay, what's good about this adapter? You know what I'm saying? And I also pulled some of my own, you know, thoughts about when my son first wanted the Nintendo Switch, standing out in line all night, the night before it came out, you know, trying to figure out if we had all the cables to plug it up, why this one's better. And so when I first started, it was like, yo, I have nothing to say about an HDMI adapter, nothing. And next thing I know, I got 24 bars about it. I'm like, this is, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like just really been, and I kind of got that concept from like years ago listening to Dead Prez. And I remember they would write songs about like a doctor's visit, about like, and it may be a whole song concept about this one doctor's visit. Or just anything about food, about workouts, about, and it really, and I was like, wow, that's really it's a challenge, you know, to expand and expound upon a concept that people normally would not have anything to say about, you know.
I'm sure it's like sharpening your tool in a way.
It is, because it's tough, but then it's like, once it gets going, it's like, oh, it's a whole song. Look
so
at
with
that.
that being said, what are certain triggers and catalysts in your life when you know this made me write a song about this, you know, whether it be like a bad relationship or like some kind of like pain or hardship? Like, what are some of your triggers that make you want to start writing immediately? Or is it
a bad relationship? Good God, my mic. A bad relationship will always make you write eventually, or even if it wasn't a full-on relationship. A lot of times those situationships, you know,
right,
will get you into it. Like we'll get you into that as well. But literally, for me, I don't have necessarily these triggers. Like, I don't realize the moment more times than not. Then I either hear a melody in my head or specific words. It's seriously, for me, it's I'll just be living my life, and a lot of times I'll just sit down. I might be playing Xbox, and here's a melody, or for whatever reason, here's a phrase that just kind of popped up in my head. But I know that for me, I had to just go live between projects, especially. Between projects, if I don't go live, you're going to get the same thing that you kind of got from the last one. I don't know. Some people are superheroes and can do a whole other theme and whole other sound the next month. I don't have that. You got to give me 3 to 4 at least. Let some stuff happen in my life. But because I'll think about it all, it'll build up in me, and I literally start to feel a swell personally. I start to feel kind of a swell of like, all right, we got to get something out now. And then I don't know what it is, but I'll get to, a studio or whatever it may be, and even if I'm not at a studio, just begin to write, put the melody down. And I have a lot of records because of that. I have a lot of records that don't necessarily have production to them. They're just a cappella, they're just vocal. Or they started that way, and I sent it out to a producer, and we built the record from there. Because it'll just be at any moment.
How about you?
Yeah. One thing I love about being a songwriter is every bad situation or negative feeling you have, you're like, I can use this for something good, you know? It's like, this sucks, but now I have some shit to say. So that's nice. I feel like I'm always writing down, like, in notes on my phone, or if I'm at home in a notebook, like little feelings that I have, or like concepts for a song. And then, yeah, for me, like the musical, like the production and the keys come first, and then I can draw upon those feelings later. So, yeah, it's kind of like a constant thing.
And how does it work with you being in a group? You know, as you know, we're all about collaboration at the retreat. So how do you all collectively approach writing a song? You all work with other people as well, you know? So how do you approach that with someone else being in the room from the genesis of a song?
Lyrically, I write all the lyrics for Moonchild, so like as far as words go, I can just kind of do my thing, and then they can give me feedback if they have feelings about it. But they're always sending me ideas, and I'm always sending them ideas, so it's just kind of like a constant back and forth of music, and then people will add whatever they're hearing to it. But I love collaboration because, like you're saying, when you get stuck, you're not stuck anymore. It's like, I can't do anything more with this, here you go. And then something amazing happens, and you didn't have to like fight through the brain freeze or whatever. So.
For me, Chasing Goosebumps was the first time that I really collaborated with other writers. Yeah, I'd always just written by myself and really I felt like I was a student of the whole process, and that's how I approached it. Like Carvin had to be like, "Moo, why you falling back? Why you laying back in the cut? Like, bring your gift to the forefront." I'm like, "Look, y'all are legends. I'm just trying to listen and learn." But it was a really amazing experience, more than I could even have asked for, to have so many brilliant minds in the room, no egos, not forcing anything, but really letting the song develop. from everyone's, expertise. And there was a lot of conversations. I really enjoyed that, that the songs developed from conversations and perspectives. Like, we were having aha moments, and it was like, that's a lyric, So that was my first time collaborating, and but also it wasn't for me personally.
Right.
So that's a different thing when it's also kind of like you want to make sure that your story is told a certain way, or just what you believe in or what you represent. Because sometimes so after that, I collaborated with a few other writers, and I think I had to be cautious to make sure that, certain things ethically I don't believe in, that they might incorporate. I'm like, I'm not going to say that,
Right.
So, knowing, and I think that's where the conversations come from ahead of time, where you guys get to know each other. If you're going to be the front person who's delivering the lyric, it really has to be something that that represents you and that you're comfortable standing by and living by. Because at the end of the day, when people listen to it, they're not going to be like, that's going to represent you. They're not going to look at the writer and be like, oh, that was the writer's opinion. Like, no, it's going to represent you. So y'all really have to be on one accord, especially for artists like myself, who so much of my work is based on my beliefs and my ethics. You know what I mean? So, I got to be cautious about that. So, yeah.
I began as a rapper in a rap group. Like, I never wanted to be a solo artist. So I was very much used to, we'll hear a beat, and then anybody got an idea, and whoever has one, or we'll all share them, and we'll say which one we like the best. And then from there, whether we want to decide how we work together in our verses, or if it's just going to be separate, and then bringing them together, listen and say, go change that. This could be better. What do y'all think about this? That was my life for about 6 years, was always what somebody else thought. Then when the group ended and I went from rapping to singing, which actually was really hard for me, because I didn't want to be a solo artist. But when I went to make that music again, it was very different just being by myself. And yeah, I had a lot to say and I had a lot of thoughts to get out. But it got to a point where it's just like, it'd be really nice if there's someone else just to make sure this is actually cool type of thing. And so then I end up meeting Sango, and we do our project together, and he had so much like input for where he wanted things to go, and would just kind of give me concepts, and I just, oh, okay. Like, and it was so much easier for me because that's what I was used to anyway. So I enjoy collaboration, but just to piggyback off what she said, there are times when I've been approached with some records that maybe they've already have it written and this is what they're going with, and they just want my vocal on it, but it's like, I don't agree with that concept, or I'm conscious of, at the end of the day, this sounds like kind of stuck up, but we all have a brand in what we're doing and something that we want to present. So, if there's a line about, I don't got no feelings or whatever, I'm like, I'm literally, all I do is talk about feelings. So I can't like get into a record where I'm acting like, F this, F that, because it's like, well, actually, I'm the guy that just said I was afraid to be in love. So it doesn't make any sense. So I definitely have that in mind in collaboration, and as far as the things that I would like to present as well and represent.
I think one thing that's really helpful is just knowing the mutual respect that's in the room, because especially like I feel so comfortable with Max and Andres because I can say I don't like something and no one is mad. And if somebody says they don't like what I did, I'm like, okay, I respect your opinion and I like what you do so much that if you guys don't like it, I don't want to use it either, So I think finding those people is special, like finding people that you feel so connected with and like trust enough. But like that feeling of respect is so important so that you can like talk through stuff without getting offended.
So when you don't have that, how do you deal with that? Like when you have with someone and you're just not vibing, it's not gelling, you're both on opposite sides of the creative process. How do you deal with that versus like, do you scrap it immediately or do you try to find a solve? Like how do you get around that wall and pivot?
It depends on who the person is to you. You know what I mean? If you've worked with them for a while, you know that it has worked before. Maybe you're just having an off day. Or if it's someone that you don't know and maybe y'all don't vibe. And, depends who's paying for the studio time. How long do we have to waste?
Right.
I also wanted to comment on something we're talking about where our songs come from in terms of like, it's very true. I found that it's always easier to write about like hard times, sad times, things that hurt you, more than it's easy to write about like your joy, right? And I was always kind of wondering, like, why is that? As humans, are we just like addicted to pain? Like, are we more inspired by pain than we are by joy? You know, like when Mary J. Blige put out What's the 411, she was depressed as shit. Everybody loved it, right? And then when she was like, no more drama,
Or in the dancery, I was like,
yeah, nobody wanted to buy that. And I was like, dang, man. You know, why we can't be happy out here? So it's funny. I started really trying to figure that out, like with this, one of the last records I did with the song Miracles. I was actually like really, really sad, like really in a place of just kind of like losing hope in people, you know? But then I was like, man, I don't want to put nothing toxic into the world though. Like just because I'm feeling fucked up, I don't want to make you feel fucked up. So I kind of wrote from when I get over this, how am I gonna feel? Like, how will I be able to look? How am I looking back on this? So yeah, I wrote it from that perspective, and it really has become a really hopeful song, even to the point that it's given me hope that I didn't have. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I just didn't want to write about it from the place of, because as I'm sitting there, and you know, you talking to yourself like, fuck them, they don't give a fuck about me. You know what I'm saying? I ain't fucking with them no more. All y'all. I hate all y'all. You know that's not really your truth. You know what I mean? You know that's just how you... Wait, is that all right if I curse? I'm sorry. All right. So you know that's... I'm from Baltimore, I'm sorry. So you know that's not really your truth, but in that moment, that's how you're feeling, but it is toxic even to you. You know, you feel it like, I know this ain't really true, but this is how I'm feeling. Don't none of y'all talk to me right now. I'm in my feelings. I don't care. I'm not coming out of it. You can't make it better for me. But like on the other side of that, you know that's gonna be temporary, and but the song is gonna live on forever, you know. So what kind of vibrations do you want to send out for people to hold on to? Because you know music is so powerful. It can be the reason someone takes their life or not. You know what I'm saying? It really can. So I try to really like keep that in mind, like how sometimes people can cling to your words. Like this little girl in Burkina Faso wrote me a DM. Like, basically, she made all these, like, she's 18. She made all these life choices, left home, decided to pursue a career, this and the third, off of the very song that I'm telling you about.
wow.
And she was like, you know, I feel like I can do it because I listened to your words and I wrote it on my wall and I say it to myself every day. And I'm like, damn, imagine if I had wrote that song from the place I was really feeling.
Yeah.
Who knows? You know what I mean?
Responsibility there.
It's really, and we don't think about it because we're in our own vibe. I'm writing this is how I feel. It has nothing to do with y'all out there in the world. But when you put it out to the world, it does have everything to do with everybody in the whole world. You just don't know who you're going to reach, you know?
I think like what we have musically.
Thank you. You over there.
We have, I think we wield weapons as artists, and we're either going to teach them how to use the weapon and fight for the goodness in their life the way that we're fighting for it, you know, or if we use it the wrong way, we're gonna mess around and hurt people with our weapons. Yeah. And I heard Kid Cudi say that he didn't want to make any music that would make people who were suicidal like actually go deeper into that. And so I stayed in that for a long time. But then I had to realize a piece of my truth as well. And a piece of my truth is when I'm feeling down, if I can find a song that allows me to express that emotion while I'm listening to it or singing along with it, I will eventually begin to feel better, which may not be how everybody is. But that's part of why I wrote sadder songs like my song Speculate and my song Afraid, because it was like if people can maybe just hear what they're feeling and can't put the words to, maybe then they can begin to sort it out a little bit. So I think we can't be afraid to go into some of those darker places if they're not, you know, toxic. Like if it's not going to be like Eminem's song Kim or something like that. Like if it's not going to go that crazy. But at the same time, you know, like I said, we wield weapons, so it's our responsibility to make sure that we're using them correctly.
I feel like as a fan of music, I look at songwriters and songwriting as to say things that I'm afraid to say or that I would never say. Where I have, because there's no inhibitions with songwriting. You say what your truth is. Yeah. So with that being said, if you write a song it's a very painful memory for you, but it's out into the world, when you hear that out in the world, is that song a reminder of those memories, or is it a release for you to say, I've come through this and I've released this in the form of a song?
It's both for me, and it's better when I'm on stage and finally get to perform it the way that I like felt it. Because a lot of times on the record, I'm giving you what needs to be done for the record, but what I'm feeling you don't see what I was feeling in the studio. The times I had to stop and just like chill for a little bit because of how much I felt the song. You just hear the completion of the record. But when you come see the live show and then I can give all of that out, I think watching people live their passion helps other people too. So I think the fans, even though it's a sad memory for me and it's still a part that I need to release, it's helping somebody as they see it in action, as they hear it. And that's what matters to me more so than like, dang, I got this like bad memory out there. Because I've made, and here's like a kind of a backwards trick, I made a bad memory into like a up-tempo, really fun song. So I got a song called Running Around. And literally it's about, I went down to spend time with this girl because she asked me, well, I was going to be in town anyway, and she asked me to stay an extra day, and I was about to go home. I was like, all right, I'll stay. And then I'm staying. I'm like, all right, cool, we getting up tonight. She's like, yeah. Then later on, suddenly she's sick and can't get up. And then the next day, I see her on Snapchat at a museum with another guy. So I was just like, and I mean, we could go angry with them lyrics, right? We can go crazy. But I made it into this like you just gotta like bop and dance, right? So I'm not, so that I don't get too upset. And now like people at that really famous dance academy, I can't remember what it is, but like the Red Wall, but they doing dance videos to it and stuff. I was like, great. So like you have to feel good when you hear this song, even though when you read the lyrics, you're like, oh, okay, that wasn't very great. So like sometimes it's almost like a reverse psychology just to help you get through it too.
I feel like Michael Jackson was great at that. A lot of those songs, you know what I mean? Working,
Billie Jean and like,
yeah. You really read the lyrics like, wait a minute. But you dancing to it.
So I want to ask one final question for everyone. What are you doing to stay inspired, to continue to create? Like, what tools do you have? What are you keeping around you to keep you?
Exercise and going hiking, hanging out with friends, going skating. No, you know what? For so long, people ask me like, "So what do you do when you're not doing music?" I'm like, I don't know, mothering. So what do you do when you're not mothering? Like sleeping, I guess. Like, I didn't really have anything else. And I feel like, honestly, like, activities that, raise your endorphins, building with other people who are like-minded, motivated, and who inspire you, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, I took this trip out to LA to just hang with, I selected people. I was like, you inspire me, you inspire me, you inspire me. We're all going to get together. We just like stayed together for like 5 days. I would have never done anything like that because I didn't value that kind of stuff. Like I honestly didn't value like bonding with other humans. I was just like, nah, I got to work. You know what I mean? Humans will be there. But it really is, it's important. I don't know, I'm just getting old, but humans are important, bonding with them. And to me, that's really inspiring, like building with other people who are on their journey, talking to them about their journey, taking trips together, meditating, like things that are not music related, but inevitably will affect your music. That's your life. So it's like when you take care of the human, that the creative spirit is going to benefit from it. So yeah, I just think just being vibrant, being alive. I like hiking now. I hiked for the first time last month. Now I'm like, where's a mountain?
How about you, Amber?
Listening to music, trying to find new music, going to see shows. Yeah, I feel like going out and seeing live music, like we're always performing, but being in the audience is the shit. It feels so good. So it's nice to be in that perspective and to hear other people's music and their ideas and the feeling when you find a new song and you just want to listen to it on repeat for like weeks, like looking for that song. I feel like those are the things that get me back into it. So
I feel like in honesty, I do not stay inspired, and not because I'm not trying to be, but I'll find that when I begin to do those things, it's because I'm not inspired anymore. So I'm always listening to music because, I mean, it's around. We love it. But a lot of times I'm listening just in appreciation, not so much like what can I do for myself to get from this to make like new records. I'm just listening in appreciation because I'm still absolutely a fan of so many people. So there've been times where my manager lives in Chicago and I'm like, hey, can I come up there for a month? I just need to get to a new environment, whatever. Not necessarily throw me in the studio. I don't know if I have anything to say right now. I just need something for my life to change.
Stimulus.
I need to live. So I will find myself doing things just to go live. Because what we'll recognize is, like, take a simple line of a song could be like, I fought for you. But I fought for you was actually about 5, 6, 7, 8 months of dealing with that situation just for it all to become that one sentence in a song. So it's like, I got to go live to make, to make this thing happen. And so really inspiration for me is everyday life. And so like I said, for me, I feel that as well. Or honestly, going to concerts, like, I'm not a big concert person. But when I have friends in town, I go watch and I hype them up, and it's exciting to see that. Because not only, are you close to it and you see it happening for others, but you know that it's possible for you as well. And you know that that's what music has done for others, the way that it's making you feel. Yeah.
Can I add one thing to that,
course.
too? You know what I experienced recently that was kind of going back to what you're saying about taking a situation? So my dad, he's not able to walk right now, right? I was telling you about this. And I was sitting at the house with him, and I was like, man, this is really heavy. And I was trying to figure out if this situation never gets better, what beauty can come out of this? You know what I mean? And, like, it hasn't become a song yet, but I was just writing notes, kind of poetry. But the thought that I had, and I was like, man, that would be a beautiful, just kind of offering to this situation. Because I'm like, I got to be here right now. And as opposed to feeling like, why I got to be here, or why me, or why is this happening? It's like, maybe this is a gift. Maybe this is a song. This is that God has given me an opportunity to create something that somebody else would benefit from, right? Because I was thinking about this concept as I'm sitting there with him, and he's not able to walk, and not able, like, even his motor skills for his hand are going away. So he's not able to hold a spoon. And he kept saying, like, the beginning is like the end. You know what I mean? The end is like the beginning. And I was thinking about that quote, once a man, twice a baby, once a man. Twice a child, once a man, right? Like how you, in your older age, you're going to go back to not know how to walk, not know how to eat, to how to take care of yourself, and just that concept of the circle of life. And actually, Eric had written this song. I don't know if we used it for the Chasing Goosebumps album, but it was about being in a hospital. Do you remember that one? He wrote a song about being in a hospital. And it was so super simplistic. Like, I don't even remember the lyrics right now, but it impacted me. It was just like him sitting, looking at the people in a hospital. So when my dad wasn't able to walk, he had fallen down, he had broken all his teeth, and so he had to go to the hospital. And it was like a super hood hospital. Like, it was police locking up people with bullet wounds coming by. Only one person can be in the room at a time. Like, real crazy stuff. And I'm just, I'm overwhelmed, I'm irritated, I'm upset, I'm sad. I'm just sitting here, I'm watching people in the hospital, and I'm seeing him, kind of trying to accept this circle of life that you can't, there's nothing you can do about it. We're all going to get to that point where we're going to be there, you know what I mean? And it's really a universal truth. And maybe everybody won't be able to relate to it if they're not there or they don't know somebody that's there yet. But as I was sitting there, I was like, this is either going to be a movie or a song or a book or something to really commemorate this story. And it helped me, like, accept being there as opposed to feeling like, oh, why me? Like, why is this happening to my dad? And da-da-da-da-da, It really was a kind of like a cleansing, almost like a filtration process to, like, take away the negative feelings, knowing that something creative and beautiful could come out of this moment that's, it's hardship or whatever.
Well, thanks for sharing. That's our time. Xavier Omar, Amber from Moonchild, and Moo Moo Fresh.